and welcome to Nichols City Chronicles. I'm here with my partner, Robby Myles Jones.
What's up?
And our special guest today is Myles Carter, running for Erie County Sheriff. What's going on, man? Okay. And what is your name? I just met you.
My name is David Hall.
David Hall. David Hall. He's watching this. My friend David Hall is watching this right now. Right. That is crazy. One of my best friends' name is David Hall. Yeah. He's probably watching this right here. He'll be watching this too. Myles Carter, man, I'm glad to have you. I was really interested to book you here because your story and what got you to politically awakened you and what made you want to run for Erie County Sheriff and sort of your ideology. So why don't you just tell the people a little bit about yourself, give a little bit of backstory about who you are, where you came from, some stuff that happened to you and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, well, I'm a longtime resident of Erie County in Buffalo. I've lived all over the county, actually, from Buffalo, Amherst, Tonawanda. When I was 12, I was in foster care for the first time. My mom was arrested for stealing groceries, to feed her 7 kids. I was one of 7. We were all homeless at the time. We were staying in a hotel. We had just moved here from Florida, and when at that time, if you had like out-of-state ID, you didn't immediately qualify for assistance and stuff like that. So
right.
We moved here. She was unemployed. My grandmother had just passed away. My uncle was handicapped. We had come home so that she could, take care of him, and hopefully so that he wouldn't go into a nursing home, et cetera, et cetera. And we ran out of options, ran out of resources. My mom made the decision to go steal groceries. She got caught. That night we went into foster care, and that kind of like just started like this, not downward spiral, but kind of like this unique and different life that kind of helped shape who I am today, I think, and a lot of my view on things.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because a lot of people don't realize it. We as humans, we don't just do things because we feel like it. We do things because we have to do it. Mm-hmm. So a lot of times you got to do what you got to do. You got to take food. You got to take food. I mean, a lot of people aren't going to agree with that. That it is what it is. Like it's technically, yes, it's an illegal act. I've done it before. Yeah. So who am I to judge?
Well, when it comes to like crime or those things that we would typically like arrest somebody or want to put somebody in jail for, I think the first question we have to ask ourselves is, why did somebody do it?
Right.
And then that's the question that's typically missing. We just want to be tough on crime. We want to prosecute to the fullest extent of the law for some people, right? But we never really ask. Well, we do ask those questions, and we understand, like, there's been multiple studies produced through the United Nations, through the American Medical Association, you can name it, that crime exists for reasons of poverty, that police brutality is real, that mass incarceration affects Black and brown communities. These are all facts that do exist. But I think that when we start peeling back the layers and we look at why crime exists, that's the only way we can start really making a meaningful impact on making a safer and more productive community. I was meeting with the freely elected commissioner of BMHA, because BMHA, I believe, has like 8 commissioners, which is the Buffalo Municipal Housing Authority. 6 of them are appointed by the mayor. 2 of them are freely elected. I was meeting with the freely elected one of the freely elected commissioners yesterday, and he gave me it was a 1990 report produced by HUD, and it was the title of it I don't remember, but the framework of it was how to pull someone out of poverty. And this is HUD, and these are things that the entire public housing system was actually built on, and it provides a step-by-step resolution to addressing poverty through public housing and establishing businesses. HUD is specifically BMHA, rental assistance. These places receive special funding that's supposed to go towards educating their residents on their rights, on home ownership, because there's special programs that exist to transition you from a person that's receiving rental assistance to someone that's taking that money and putting it towards a mortgage instead, so that you become an owner of that home instead of a renter. And then there's also business money that's available through BMHA and through rental and housing assistance, specifically for people that live in the projects. So I don't know if you know anything about Marina Drive apartments.
Right.
Yes. But
right.
there's a corner store down at the bottom of Marina Drive apartments.
Yes.
There's an outside tenant that pays $1,200 a month for rent there. However, BMHA and HUD specifies that residents get first priority when it comes to commercial setups within their developments. So somebody that is a resident there could in turn be operating that store and making that money and changing their overall condition, lifting themselves out of poverty, as opposed to an outside owner.
So you're saying right now it's an outside owner that's in that store rather than a resident?
For sure, but the residents, they're not aware of these things. There's all types of laws and programs and funding that exist that we're not aware of.
You know, that's intriguing to me because I was telling you before we went live that I'm fiscally conservative person. Okay, socially liberal all the way, fiscally conservative all the way.
Right.
Now that at first sounds like something that a conservative would be shy away from, but then you kind of put it in the direction of long term, because see, people like myself, our focus is, our concern is, how do we get people out? We're not trying to keep people in public housing. How do you get people in public housing and then out of public housing to be owners? So that right there is an intriguing idea, and I think we need more solutions that gear towards long term, not just put you in the system and then stay right there, don't get a job. You know what I'm saying?
Not to cut you off, but if you ask me, like, in order to make sure that these types of changes are possible, that this information is made aware, we also need to understand and realize that people like him and Ms. Dominique are essential to making these changes possible.
Right.
Because there are leadership qualities in a lot of people that aren't taking leadership steps. You have people in power right now that are okay with not letting this information be known.
Yeah.
And that's the issue.
Yeah.
You can't make information known when there's people in power that don't want it to be known.
That's true. Yeah. A lot of politicians, and even Democrat politicians, it's all about just getting votes, winning the next election, and then staying alive, staying in power, keeping what they have, not really caring about changing and making better changes to the world. You know what I'm saying? So it's very rare to have that authentic person to run. Yeah, man. Like, because that's really the big issue is how do we get to a point of equality without, because okay, let me break this down. There's a social tug of war, right, between freedom and equality. A lot of us like to say it's all both. Freedom is equality, or equality is freedom, but they really take away from each other sometimes. So in a total free market capitalist world, the dog-eat-dog world, the big man goes out and he works hard and he gets a business, but not everybody is mentally designed for capitalism. Some people just don't have the makeup, the genetic makeup for it, or some people have mental illness. Like, there has to be a system.
It's a hyper-masculine game. And
yes,
then it's like even the women that participate in this game, they make decisions like they decide not to have children and they focus on becoming a powerhouse. Men and women decide not to get married and stay single and focus on becoming that powerhouse. Everybody gives up so much to focus, specifically on making that money and driving that home. I know so many people like that, and it's not to say that you can't make those decisions in your life. But at the end of the day, like, I don't think we should be forced to make those decisions. This is some of the good ways that New York State is progressive. Is that we have paid family medical leave in New York State, which is like essential.
Yeah.
And I took advantage of that when my daughter was born 2 years ago, and I used it as an opportunity to start my own business.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or I already had my business started, but I used an opportunity to really launch my business, so I didn't have to go back to work, right?
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things that we need, and I think that everybody has the ability and the capability to be independent, right, and to be self-sustainable. And I think that that's important through home ownership and through business ownership, because one of the ways that people silence us is or keep us down or not allow you to thrive is through controlling your voice, through your paycheck. A lot of police officers are afraid to step forward and to do the right thing, or to even collaborate on a platform that's about reshaping and changing our community, because they don't want to be isolated or shut out or lose their career.
Right.
Teachers, the same thing. They have the union that they have to answer to. Not that they have to answer to, but there's a political game there that a lot of people have to play, and they don't necessarily have the ability to speak out and do those things all the time. But when you allow yourself to be independent, and you're able to sustain yourself through your own income, it really gives you the autonomy to say the things that need to be said and to push for the changes that need to be pushed. And that's one of the issues with our politicians, is that too many of them had to make promises and backdoor commitments to get where they are today. So you have all the great progressive names in Buffalo, and I'm not even going to start, diminishing their careers and character because, it's not even that's not what we're about, but they can't really push for those changes or even advocate for those victims anymore, because they've had to make all these backroom deals just to get their positions of power.
Yeah, I mean, they're in someone's pocket to get there in the first place, so they have no choice.
We seen how the situation with his son was handled, so we understand.
Yeah, I mean, it becomes a puppet game. Politicians become front people for corporations and businesses, or even just other countries or other states or other cities or outside entities. You know what I'm saying?
You remember I almost got flared the one episode I said I don't see politicians, excuse my French, no different than a woman down the street being bought. Y'all both hoes in my eyes. I'm sorry.
And at the end of the day, we shouldn't be arresting people that are working in sex traffic or that are working in sex work, because that again is typically a crime that is committed out of circumstance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, again, it's such a weird thing.
So many people don't want to grow up and be a sex worker. It's something that you happen into,
right?
And you shouldn't be going to jail for that.
But not only that, right? If you actually break it down. Two people meet each other one day. They go out to a bar. A guy and a girl. Let's say just for an example, a guy and a girl meet. They go to the person's apartment. They have sex, and the guy says, "You know what? Here's $50. I like you." Is that prostitution? Where that's a gray area. Where do you make the line?
It wasn't quid pro quo. She didn't ask for the $50.
She didn't ask for it, right?
But,
so that's what I'm saying. It's like, as a libertarian, man. And I know a lot of conservatives. This is where the conservatives and libertarians differ. I'm all about freedom for people to make their own decisions. If a shoe wants to marry a pen, they'll let them get married. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, who cares? What is it? And if you're a Christian pastor, you don't have to marry them. No one's forcing you to do that. Just okay. You don't accept them. Fine. That's your First Amendment right as a Christian or a Muslim or whatever you are to say, I'm not going to do it. You know what I'm saying? But let them live. Let them find another pastor that will, or someone else, or just getting it done by paper.
Well, in America, we were given the ability to exercise our own beliefs, right? And we're giving the protections for other people not to impose those beliefs on us.
Right.
Right. So, I think that those are two fundamentals that we have to keep in mind when we're making decisions like this. So when it comes to things like marriage equality, that has no place for anyone to be deciding who gets to marry who outside of the person that's getting married.
Yeah.
And it's their own personal decision. And I'm a Muslim and I'm a religious person. And at the end of the day, that's still not my place to make that decision for any person.
And that's what the First Amendment's all about. They put the First Amendment first for a reason. Okay, freedom to express your values, no matter what. It's not just for Christians. It's not just for Muslims. It's for everybody to express who they are, and nobody can tell them that they're wrong. That's what that means. That's what the First Amendment breaks down to. Do you have something you want to say?
Hold on a second.
I think the only thing I kind of wanted to add to that was we need to highlight why some of these laws were actually put in place in the first place, and that's something that a lot of politicians don't talk about. Is a lot of these laws were put in place because black people, they wanted white people wanted to incarcerate black people, just like stop and frisk. That was so black people could get stopped and they could get frisked. Like sex trafficking, I bet you if you look up the history, it was probably a black person needed to go to jail for doing this, or black people were making money doing this. So now let's make it a crime. And I think a lot of politicians and a lot of regular people out on the streets, they just, okay, well, this is the rule and it applies to me because this is the law. And they don't actually think this law wasn't made this law wasn't made for black people. This law was made to incarcerate black people. And I think that's another big problem is black people are just okay, well, I see this shit happening. Excuse me, I see this stuff happening.
Oh, yeah, it's
it's a podcast.
Be yourself. We don't limit nothing on it. Be yourself.
Yeah.
I'm definitely I'm definitely a black person that I'm out here and I'm every time I get pulled over. I got pulled over on Delaware for running stop signs, and that was something that the day George Floyd died, I got dragged out of my car. All my stuff was taken out. I was asked, was my little brother an illegal immigrant? I was asked if I have drugs or guns in the car. I said no to all that. They still brought my car down to the precinct. They took everything out. I lost money in that. I had money in the car that they just took away. I guess they considered it drug money. I didn't even get it. I got 3 tickets for speeding, not having my insurance, which my car has always been insured, and it was having obstruction of view. And all of that.
So you think that they're just out to get like?
I think there was something ironic about that day that George Floyd had died, the way he died, and then I also got pulled over and got overly harassed by Tonawanda police officers, and it was like, if you look up the facts, like 72% of arrests made in Tonawanda are black people, or black males. Excuse me.
Interesting.
So I don't know. For me, that was just like an eye-opening experience.
Yeah.
Obstruction of view is one of those things that's important for us to understand, because that's a very minor offense that I believe is like a priority offense in traffic law. So if you have one of those scented pine cones hanging from your rear view mirror, you have a scarf hanging from your rear view mirror, beads hanging from your rear view mirror, those things they can actually pull you over for.
Yeah.
Right. And then that starts the reasonable suspicion. So when I was 17, I was going to prom. I was going out to I was going out to West Seneca, right, to get my to rent my limousine for prom, right? And I got three of my friends with me. We're all black, driving on Transit Road. I had a big old Lincoln Town Car, 1990 Lincoln Town Car. Thing was a tank, right? And we got pulled over, and it's because I had a bandana hanging from my rearview mirror. That's the only reason they pulled me over. And within 5 minutes, all of us are stretched out on the sidewalk.
They set up those little gray areas to use that as a tool, so they don't have to pull you over for it, but they can choose.
They can choose.
Yeah,
they can choose.
That's what they do that for.
But I mean, that's like the gray area that he was talking about, is that understanding that some of these laws were fundamentally created for us.
Yeah.
I mean,
because they don't choose to pull Sally down the street, who had that nice little tunic hanging around her rib. They don't choose to pull Sarah from cheek to walk. You know what I mean?
Right,
like,
right.
These laws were set in place so they could target specific people. It's how you look. Do you look reasonable enough that there might be something going on? No. Now I'm nervous because I see you fucking looking at me and I know what's up, bro.
And that's exactly how. Sorry. And that's exactly what the cop said. So we were together. We got pulled over like 3 weeks ago, right? And my taillight was out. And the cop was actually coming from the opposite side of the street. We're driving down Niagara Falls Boulevard. We're going south. He's going north, right? He looks at me through my window, busts a U and pulls me over.
Boo.
Right?
Wow.
My taillight's out. I don't know how you got all that immediately, but hey, the police officer pulled me over. And the police officer comes out to the window. The first question, why are you so nervous? Yeah, we looked at each other like, yo, I think we should probably be recording this one, because my first
thing he said,
recording.
didn't ask for ID, no nothing, just say why you nervous.
Why are you so nervous?
Why do you have an attitude?
Yeah,
Now that shit will make me. This gonna go left from here.
He was like, I'm not even nervous. He was like, why are you talking to me with an attitude? Like, what?
Yeah. So
You want somebody to get
so I'm just gonna give my opinion on this, because this is a deep issue that's happening in America right now. Nobody can escape this issue. Is police brutality and racism, and defund the police, Blue Lives Matter, all these buzz phrases that we're hearing right now. I booked a friend of mine who's coming next month. He's a black police officer in Atlanta, Georgia, and this is an issue that he feels really deeply about, because what his opinion, and I'm gonna have to second him on this, is he's seeing people go way too far in the direction of anti-police, defund the police, and it's not that we don't understand where it's all coming from, because these are all facts.
Right.
There is a problem in this country that needs to be fixed with police brutality. That's a fact. There are cops that are getting badges and guns that should not be allowed to have a badge and a gun. People, they have mental issues. They should be getting checked in to get help. You know what I'm saying? With that being said, though, there's a lot of good cops out there that really want to see their communities be safe and stuff like that,
Then
too.
speak up.
And that's why I'm trying to have them on.
Then speak up.
And I guess the point I'm trying to make is, I think we need to do a better job hiring police, first of all. I really do. I really think that, because you can't just become a doctor and take a test. What do you call it? What's those tests that the cops take?
Civil service?
Civil service test, right? You can't just take a civil service test to be a doctor or a lawyer. You got to go to school. You got to be trained. You have to know stuff.
And they're making life-changing decisions.
Life-changing decisions.
Yeah.
So I feel that police should be held up to that perspective, where this is a job where you're affecting people's lives.
I think the understanding is like, it's just said like, and treated that they're just normal human beings who put on a badge and a gun.
Right.
at the end of the day,
So
we
the
need to
standard
come
is
to
here. The standard is way
yeah,
down
we
here.
need to
because
come
they're
to
just
the
people.
understanding
Yeah.
that we can't say that there's only a few bad surgeons.
Yeah.
There's only a few bad pilots.
Right.
No, we
Are you kidding
we
me?
have to address the root cause again because, honestly, it's not just an issue that exists in Buffalo, and we know the issue does exist in Buffalo because we got people that have suffered from it.
Facts.
We've got people that have died at the hands of police officers in Buffalo and people that have been beaten and brutalized at the hands of police officers in Buffalo. But, we know that it doesn't just exist here, it exists nationally. So it's an issue that's kind of built into the culture of policing. So like when you say there are good police officers, I do have to challenge that statement because I do believe that it's very hard to name someone a good police officer when you have a system that is so bent on the destruction of black and brown lives. Now, when we can start actually having an honest conversation about changing that system and restructuring the way that we do community safety and policing, then we can start changing the conversation on who's a good cop and a bad cop. But right now, the entire system is working against an entire.
Here, I got an idea. I'll give you my mic from now on. That mic's making all this weird noise.
I mean, I feel like at the end of the day, like, I don't want to hear the conversation of there's good cops. And I'm not saying, because I know police officers too, Neil, you know that. Like, I know police officers. There are good cops that are in the field. But the issue is that those good cops don't speak about the bad cops. I don't want to hear about it when we're tipping back beers at the bar or when I'm at your personal home. I want to hear about it when I read the newspaper and I realize you just outed 4 bad cops.
And my comment onto that was exactly what I was going to say, because during the protests, I've actually had black officer friends who I disassociated myself with, because there's a statement in coming out here as a police officer and walking with these protesters, because we weren't rioting, it wasn't terrorism, it was protesting, and we were walking in solidarity with everyone else. And it's like, why can't these cops walk with us? Hey, why didn't you come out to this protest? Why don't you come and represent the police force of Buffalo Police Force? Oh, it's because Byron Brown told my sheriff that if we do that, then we get fired. If you get fired, you're going to be the Colin Kaepernick of police officers around the United States. It's like, if no one has taken that chance, no one has taken that shot to walk with these actual people, just like you, with the badge on or with the gun, and they still look at us as criminals. They turn their backs towards the other people, and they turn their backs toward the other police officers that obviously want to shoot us and attack us. And while we're out here protesting, not being violent, they look at us with their hands on their guns. That's not a good cop. What makes you a good cop is standing up for what's right. And if you're
at the right time,
regardless of who
right.
says
So like Carrie Horn, you know what I mean, and she's a Buffalo hero that has a national name now. Carrie Horn, she did the right thing in a time where she had to make a decision, right?
Yep.
Neil Mack was in an illegal chokehold, right? That was illegal at that time too, and he was at risk of losing his life. And Carrie Horn stopped in and saved that man, right? And then in reprimand, she was fired, and she was stripped of her pension, even though she had 20 years on the force, and she was disgraced by everyone from the mayor on down, right? And our black mayor disgraced her, and she's a black police officer that did the right thing.
I follow politics at this point. We can't call him a black mayor, but
This is actually happening more often than you think. Joe Rogan had a guest on about a year ago who was a cop who stepped down, and this dude was young. He might have been 31 years old. Quit the force. He said that the stuff that he saw was just blowing his mind, like unbelievable. But even he said it got so bad that he and his partner would go around and they would go out of their way to avoid arresting black people. It's gonna sound crazy, and to look more for white people, just so their statistics wouldn't look so bad.
Whiplash, right? It's so bad one way, they go the complete opposite.
So it became a weird. That's a weird situation. If you really break that down and think about it, he's going out of his way and racially profiling white people, so that his numbers won't look and appear like we're only arresting black people. Crazy.
But where are they trained to look for crime at? Where are they
taught? That's why he stepped down.
Like, where are they taught from the moment you born to the moment you of age to understand the world? You taught crime is where black people
in the city,
are. Which is in the city, where you're gonna find gangs and gang members, and I mean, at the end of the day, let's really get to the root of it.
Yeah.
Give us back our after-school programs. Give us back our leaders.
You know
Stop
what I
killing
think?
them.
You know what I think?
Stop putting these people in power that don't represent our people.
You know what I think? This is actually a conservative point too. School choice. I do
You
believe
think
that
it's school choice?
I believe that people should have a choice to go to what
Then
school they
let-
want to go
let's-
to,
yeah.
and more
But
and more
listen,
more charter
And your
schools.
only-
tax- and
listen,
your tax
the only
dollars should
reason
follow
is-
you.
Yeah.
And your tax dollars should follow.
My
Yeah,
issue
yeah.
with that is when you understand where grant funding is placed and why and how it's placed there. We broke it down before. When it comes to schools, there are a couple statistics that play in the amount of funding you get.
Yeah.
The success rate of students, how many students are graduating, the amount of seats that are being filled, the amount of what is it called? The amount of students that are there every day, the attendance of the students. So when you look at that and then you pair it with the area, which is another statistic that goes in the front. I'm sorry, I get stumbled up. I'm passionate about this shit. When you understand those statistics and you put them all together, you truly understand that it's not, even in education wise, the system is not made for us. If my area depicts how much funding my school gets and my school is on Fillmore, how much funding do you think I'm getting? And then you understand the poverty plight of my people. You see that some of them can't go to school. They got to help out their single mom.
Yeah.
They got to do part-time hours. So now the attendance is dropped. You got the area and the attendance. The success rate, how is they going to graduate when they juggling so much? And these is kids. Y'all expect this shit from adults. These is kids that I grew up with, 16 years old. Juggling a job, trying to go to high school. High school, we not even in college yet.
So instead of working now, they turn to selling weed and selling drugs because now they can do that at school. They can do it on the streets. They can do it from home, and it's easier, and they're able to
popular.
make the same amount of money, and it's a popularity thing at this point. But at the same time now what if we had an education program in the inner city? Now we understand it's a distressed area. We understand that there are issues that are going on here. This young 18-year-old boy and girl, instead of having them left with decisions to make like that, now we're going to pay them a full-time salary to get an actual skills, a special skills training in plumbing, in carpentry, and an actual skills training, not the knockoff that Job Corps offers you, right? Because I've done construction a long time. I've hired enough drywallers from Job Corps to understand that they don't really provide those kids with a real skill, and they don't provide them with a real payment while they're out there either. Those kids, they'll go there and they get promised a paycheck and they get like $100 a week for attending. That's essentially an allowance for an 18, 19-year-old person. Like, these people need $15, $20 an hour
sounds
in
like
their
a pay-to-play
pocket.
system like prison.
Yeah, they need $15, $20 an hour in their pocket so that they can provide for their families, because those are the issues that we're dealing with at home. I read the statistics on BMHA at $12.50, which is the minimum wage in the city of Buffalo, working 43 hours a week. That's what the poverty threshold is. Right, so at $12.50, you have to work 43 hours a week in order to maintain your life in the city of Buffalo, and those are for public assistance and people that are living in BMHA. So you're telling me that a single-family household cannot do it? They cannot do it with one job.
Bro.
They can't do it with one job. Now, how many single-family households are in the inner city of Buffalo? How many single-family households?
I'm one of them.
Right now you tell there's a single-family household. Now they have to be single. They can't even be single income because they can't survive with public assistance.
Yeah, no. Yeah. And you get public assistance as soon as you start making any money, you're cut. So
I mean,
you
like
get
you
get incentivized to stay in the system.
And when we met, it was before Robert was even born. I ended up having 4 kids. I was the financial provider for 13 years.
Yeah.
So you could imagine how it felt as a man to go in a WIC and you look at these checks and you realize, between my WIC and with my food stamps, how the fuck am I going to get by? Because it's still not enough. You giving me 8 cans when he going through 1 can in 3 days.
My brother, I am self-employed. My job got reduced greatly during COVID because we were not able to do home inspections and everything else. It was to the point where I had to apply for food stamps back in August. I applied for food stamps on September 1st. I did not get a decision. I didn't get a decision until the middle of December. I called them.
Food stamps supposed to be the next day.
You got kids?
I get income because I'm on unemployment, right? I was on unemployment, so I have an income, so I'm not emergency food stamps.
Oh,
I've got 5 kids, and
I'm thinking of emergency food
stamps.
stamps.
I've got 5 kids, and I'm a single father, right? It took them 14 weeks to get me an answer. I called my New York State Assembly person. They told me the reason is that there's 20 people employed at the food stamp office processing 500 applications that they're receiving a day. 500
a day.
Now I'm running for Erie County Sheriff. There's 780 corrections officers. And that's overseeing the 500 to 600 inmates that are in there on average per day. So you're telling about how we're spending money on the issue that prevents crime versus now that the people that have committed a crime, and that's overstaffed. All right,
overstaffed.
We're employing it as if there's 1,500
but
inmates.
That's also to understand.
But there's only 500 to 600.
And I don't mean I love where I come from, but that's also coming to understand. And y'all gonna hate me for this, but we raw. How Western New York works. let's look at the statistics as far as the, Neil, don't hate me for this, as far as the race of these correctional officers that are filling these spots. Let's look at how they got there.
Right.
Do they have a military background? Do they have somebody who's a warden that's in their family?
Yeah.
Do they have somebody that's sitting on a council seat?
So from what I understand, there's we have been working with people that have worked at the sheriff's office, and there is a good old boys club there to the point where they're not even required to take the civil service exam to get in at times.
You fucking lying.
These are the issues that we're dealing with, and when you got from what I understand, right? Because I'm not sheriff yet, I don't get to open the books, but from what I understand, a deputy who would be the corrections officer, right? Those would be deputies to the sheriff's department. Their starting salary is about $70,000 a year. So when I look at the types of employees that we could be paying for that dollar amount, a social worker comes out making $40,000 a year. Right, and we got tons of schools in Western New York that are producing social workers. I'd rather have them working in our jails. Right, a therapist probably comes out of school making $50,000 to $60,000 a year. We have tons of schools in Western New York that are producing therapists and mental health counselors. I'd like to be putting them to work. Right, a drug counselor makes about $30,000 a year.
Church, because you preach.
A drug counselor makes about $30,000 a year, and there's tons of those being produced by Horizons and every other organization in Western New York. And we need to be putting those people to work in our jails, saving these people so that when they're returned back to the streets of our community, they're not reoffending and committing the same offenses that got them there in the first place. And just one more point,
Sure.
You know, the people that are in our county jails are either large in part awaiting trial, right? So innocent until proven guilty, right? Second piece being on a probation or parole violation, right? And the third point being that if they are sentenced and they're doing their time at the county jail, they have been sentenced for less than a year. Right, so these are people that are just starting off in the criminal justice system. So if we make some immediate changes on the county jail level, we can actually start saving lives and making a huge impact on the people that are being returned back to the streets, because 100% of the time the people at county jail are being returned back to the streets.
Yeah. And once you become institutionalized, it's very, very hard.
Oh yeah.
And
I mean, like, I don't know if you mind if we talk about
what?
When me and you.
Yeah, sure.
So,
where's this going?
Let's go.
No,
like me and Neil, like a lot of people don't know like the history with me and Neil. Like I met Neil when I was 16 years old. And me and Neil, we were suffering some stuff. Do you want him to know that part?
Yeah, we already talked about this a little bit.
Yeah,
Robby and I have met each other in the depths of despair, and we watched each other get back up from it. We were in rehab and prison together.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yep.
So we've seen the bottom, and we were, dude, we've been it's been a wild ride, and I don't regret none of it,
right? Because
it gave me my ideology, my worldview, made me stronger. Me and him were in the county, and then I went to state. I was in Orleans. I was in Wendy. I was in Elmira. I was in Willard. I did the boot camp thing.
Bad boy.
Yeah.
He was a bad boy.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, around, man. No, we all got our own demons.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
No, but like,
so this actually all ties in, because my whole history with the law has always been drug related, and a lot of the solutions could come from some legalization. Like, there's people who went to prison for weed, and now it's legal.
Yeah, I was one of them.
What do you do with those people? Some people are still there. Some people got out. I mean, I know right now people are getting out now because of that. They passed new laws. They passed the First Step Act.
They should be out today.
Yeah, when they passed the First Step Act, pretty much all the weed people got out.
A lot of people got out.
But I would bet my money there's probably still people locked up for weed. I don't know. Whatever the circumstances are, I don't know. But those people need to get out. But what I'm getting at is, we're talking about not possession being 9/10 of the law, and people have the intentions like we're not. It's like, okay, so let's break this down.
Before you do, can I cut in?
Sure, go ahead.
The reason why I brought up me and you being locked up is to piggyback off of what he said. Like, think about those times we were sitting there, bro. And there were no programs for us.
Nothing.
There were no social workers.
Yeah.
Like, even when I was younger, at 16 years old, out in Alden Correctional Facility.
Yeah.
I'm there for 10 months. And
right.
there's no social workers.
That brings you to my point.
Like, we're just
that brings me to my point.
A full 10-hour day, at least.
Listen,
full 10-hour day of
I was
working
doing 23
programs.
bro.
That brings me to my point.
I was 16 years old in my cell for 23 hours.
That brings me to my point, though, is this. Sometimes people have mental health issues. This is a big problem in this country. Mental health, right? People don't know where to go. They need social workers, someone to talk to guide them. Here, I'll put you in this job program.
Please click on the link if you know somebody who need help.
So put you in a job program, put you back in school, help you fill out paperwork, help you fill out, like, people with mental health issues don't have the capacity to do these things. They need someone to help them do it.
Advocacy.
People don't understand that. Now, with the drug thing, with the war on drugs, it's been an epic failure. All we're seeing is packed prisons. We're seeing overdoses.
Because it wasn't a war on drugs.
So
we know what it, we know what it was a war on.
So alcohol was illegal.
It was war on a black man in America.
If anyone doesn't know that by now, alcohol used to be illegal in the 1920s, Prohibition. And during that time, this is wild statistics right here, right? During that time, the overdose rate of alcohol was up 400% of what it is right now.
Yeah.
That means people were making hooch in their basement and dying from it, and getting alcohol poisoning and dying from it. So what is that? Why am I saying that? Because I'll tell you what. With the drugs now, with the epidemic now, with the opiate epidemic, even the crack epidemic.
Now let's look at how those two were treated differently.
Hold on.
Okay.
That's a whole other topic. Hold on. Let me finish this.
I'm doing ready.
Hold on a second. If we made these drugs safe, medical, available,
right,
and legal, there would be no dealers. There would be, I mean, what are gangs doing? How are gangs making money? Selling drugs, prostitution. If we really figured out a way to legalize some of this stuff, the jails would not be as packed. People wouldn't be dying every day from overdosing on some stuff that came from China that we don't know what's in it.
But that
some
doesn't
car
represent
fentanyl.
the want of the 1%.
Hold on. I know that. I'm getting there. It would take away the market where these gangs are in, fighting over territory. Yo, I got my man hitting licks on this corner. He needs to go. We need to air him out because we got to get my guy there so that money can come in our direction. That's where a lot of these murders are coming from. So you got murder, you got arresting, you got overdosing, all gone overnight because we just decided to let people be who they are. You know what I'm saying?
I think to an extent, like a lot of that stuff, like marijuana is a big one for me. Like I feel like marijuana should be. I feel like as sheriff, marijuana will be completely not a priority under my sheriff's administration at all, right? So that's gone. Like I think as a community and as a science community, I think we need to take a deeper look at some of these other things that are out there that people are choosing to use.
Right.
Like you have magic mushrooms.
Yes,
you have,
that's what I was getting at.
You have acid. You have LSD. You have.
And let me clarify let me clarify my point too. I don't want people to think that I'm saying, well, just legalize all these drugs, let everybody go crazy. I'll give you So there's a lot of research going on with psychedelics that are mind-blowing, that are helping people with PTSD. DMT is having breakthrough research. Yeah, psilocybin mushrooms are helping people with brain conditions. But even the drugs that I'm talking about, like heroin and cocaine, for example, those are never going to be good for anybody. No. Okay, but I'll give you Suboxone, for example. Suboxone came out. And people who are addicted to heroin go on Suboxone, all of a sudden they can function again. They can get a job. They can go back to school. They're not worried about getting their next fixed. I think we need to look at that as the bar.
I worked with a woman that was taking Suboxone when I was working at HSBC Mortgage, and that's exactly like, and she was honest about it. Like we were cool. We'd go on lunch, we'd talk and stuff like that. And that's the thing is like, I'm not afraid to talk to people about these things.
And that's what I'm getting at. Is I think we need to look at that more.
She was fully functioning. She was she was addicted to prescription drugs which contained opioids in them at some point.
Right.
And she was on Suboxone, which was being clinically prescribed, and her clinic was somewhere in the city of Buffalo, and she was using that to wean herself off of the addiction.
And here's my punchline for this, for everything I'm just saying. People don't choose to just do drugs because they think it's cool. They have something wrong with them. Mm-hmm. Some mental illness is causing them to use. Trauma. Some people don't feel normal unless they get their fixing. So no, you don't know what it's like until you're in their shoes. Like
my mom, and I want to make this point because it piggybacks on that very well. Like my mom, she was homeless and addicted to drugs for 17 years after we went into foster care. Like I helped her get into rehab. Last year, she finished her inpatient program. She's finished her outpatient program, and she got her apartment. She's actually out in Orleans County. That's where she lives. That's where our family's from. My family's from Lindenville, which is a little town right on Lake Ontario. Right. I grew up as a country boy for a little period of my time too. Nice. the point is that like even in our jail system, there's no proper detox, there's no proper drug treatment for those individuals that are in jail for drug related offenses. And as sheriff, I can't stop everybody from going to jail for a drug-related offense, but what we can do is we can definitely provide services in those jails to make sure that people can detox properly off their drugs without risking their lives or their safety, right? And that there are solutions to help build people mentally, physically, emotionally, so that when they are returned to the streets, that hopefully they're not choosing to take those harsh street drugs anymore, and they have a push for something better, right? And
that's what I'm getting at, a safer option. Not just let people do it.
We got to solve these problems for we got to help people solve these problems, and I think
stop arresting people for doing
sure.
We're arresting people for wanting to change the way they feel. Think about that. Break down that concept. It's wild. 100 years from now, 200 years from now, 1,000 years from now, people are going to look back and this is the most primitive thing ever. Yo, they used to arrest people for wanting to change the way they feel? For changing the way they feel. Think about that. Like we look down on drug addicts. Oh, that crackhead. Oh, that dope fiend. But dude, you don't understand. They need it to feel normal. So to feel how you feel, whoever's watching this that feels normal right now.
Fiends, by the way.
To feel normal, to feel the way that you feel right now, they have to go out and illegally buy a substance and ingest it. Do you think they want to do that? Do you think they're just doing it just because I just want to do it?
I've never.
I'm
met
sure
a lot of drug addicts. I have never met a drug addict that loves being a drug addict.
No one does.
And that's the thing is like everybody is in that position because they've experienced some type of trauma in their life. They've got some type of mental illness. Like when you meet these people on the streets, they're broken in their state. They're not out here happy to be out here robbing people to get drugs. They're not happy out here neglecting their family to get drugs. They want to be better. They want to be in a better place. But the thing is that we've demonized drug addicts so badly that when you have a drug addict in your family, you cut them off.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They get isolated.
And that makes them worse.
That makes them worse. You need to bring your drug addicts in. You need to hug them. You need to tell them that you love them. And you need to continue, even while they're doing drugs, you need to continue pushing in their brain that they need something better in their life.
Yes.
And when they fall down, you got to be there to help pick them up. Obviously, you don't put yourself on the line where you're risking your own health, your own safety, and all those other
finances,
things. Bro, I'm to the point, I'm sorry if I hit your thing over here.
No, you're good.
I'm to the point where, like, 3 years ago, my mom stole my car. You know what I mean? I got 5 kids. Like, I got to get my kids back and forth to school. I got to go to work. This is a single family. My mom stole my car. You know what I mean? And I had to go drive around the city of Buffalo. I had to track her down. I had to get my car back. And it's not about isolating my mom and turning her out and anything like, no, we're using this as a learning experience, Mom. Like, you hurt me. You know what I mean? This hurts. Now, we need to work on building ourselves better so this doesn't happen again. Right, and that's the type of thought we have to have with every single community member of our county, as opposed to just locking these people up, throwing away the key.
It's such a primitive way to do things.
We need to like snip that clip and use that during your campaign because that was the most humane, understanding, considerate, kind thing I've ever heard in my life.
That is life. But like, what I'm saying is like, I got drug addicts in my family. So when we talk about fixing the fucking drug problems that exist in our community, bro, like. These police officers, they're not going to do it because they look at drugs as a crime.
Yeah, they do.
I look at drugs as something that is destroying my family, and I want to fight the drug, not my family.
Right.
But that's what the understanding, like you come from the communities that you've seen this ravaging.
Yes.
You got family, you've
dealt
with
it
personally. You feel me?
I'm the product
of the
my
mother was
epidemic.
a crackhead. Listen, what really touched me about you, and I haven't spoken on it yet, a lot of people who are watching this right now that personally know me, there's 2 concepts about you that I understand and I relate to more than anything. I was a foster child. My mother was a crackhead.
There you go.
She didn't sell my car, she sold me.
There you go.
So when you talk about these topics, like it's hard not to get passionate. It's hard not to feel it where it hits the most because these are the issues that face our people. The reason that I brought you on and what really attracted me to you the most, and even Miss Dominique, is the hunger for change. It isn't just something that you speak about. It's something that you feel, not just in your heart, but in your spirit.
I grew up on Malcolm X, Huey Newton, Marcus
Come
Garvey.
on.
Bro, like, so when you talk about not only do I want change, I know how to make it and make it better for our people. And that's the thing. And so it's like when we talk about things like integration has failed our people, and I'm not afraid to say it. You know, and so many people want to condemn me and want to demonize me and want to say that I'm an extremist or a separatist because I say integration failed. No, there was a systemic attempt at breaking and diminishing our communities and our people before integration.
Right.
So that when we got to the table, we were sitting on a one-legged stool. You know what I mean? So when it comes to integrating, that's an exchange of ideas and an exchange of goods and services. No, we came begging. We came begging for doctors' offices. We came begging for businesses to buy from. We came begging for hotels to sleep at. We came begging for cars to rent. And we came begging for buses to step onto. We did not integrate. We subjugated, right? So we got to reverse that stuff.
Now,
you know, and those are the things that really break us down.
To piggyback that's also to understand, and when I say this, if you don't know where I'm coming from, please research when I say this. That's to understand redlining. Redlining essentially created ghettos in the United States of America. And for those who don't understand what redlining is, redlining was basically realtors and banks in bed together saying that if you are of this ethnic background, no matter if you can afford it or not, no matter what your job was, what your career was, what your credit score looked like, we will not sell to you in these areas.
Unfortunately, I got 13 years of real estate experience under my belt, so we're going to have to talk about redlining for a minute because, like, that's one of them topics that I think really affects our community. And we talked about, like, you know, Section 8 and then transitioning to actually home ownership. But, like, we have banks in Western New York that are guilty of redlining here in the past decade.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not,
I
not
know because of my father. He went to the military, gained a paycheck, came back, and they said, we won't sell to you.
Evans Bank was guilty of redlining. They had to pay a $750,000 fine to the state of New York for redlining in 2015. We're not that far removed. But not only that, they get a whole stop on the Metro line. They're the only bank with a stop on the Metro line. So not only do they discriminate against black and brown people in our community, but then we put them up on a pedestal.
They receiving our dollars,
man. Right? And when you go down Elmwood, they have the biggest, nicest branch on Elmwood. Everybody puts them on a pedestal. Evans Bank is guilty for redlining.
I want to hear Neil. He over there in thought.
Well, I'm an economics major, so some good points being made. But I think you got to be careful about some things too. You got to remember. So, the crash of 2007, right?
Yeah.
Who got affected by it the most? Black people, right? People who are, you know, in the lower brackets of income. And what happened was it was a genuine attempt to give out loans to people. And it turned out that some of these people couldn't pay these loans back. It was predatory. Yes, that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe some people when that was going on, some people thought, oh, we're gonna help these people out, but really, what it led to was The Big Short.
Yeah.
So, you know, I
and all that stuff started under the Clinton administration. I know everybody wants to blame George W. Bush for a housing crash.
They
It
were giving out. So you know what I'm talking about.
And Freddie Mac.
Yeah.
And then the opening of these mortgage investment pools for the entire country to start bidding on.
Right.
That brought us to the mortgage crisis, and that was all done. And I think George Bush just expedited it with the repeal of Glass-Steagall.
Right.
You know it. So you already know.
Yeah,
you just finished my whole entire thing.
It's
that
crazy.
I think we have to be careful about just thinking that financial is going to be money is going to be the solution to everything. We need solutions.
Yeah.
We need solutions for like getting people to own property, getting people to start a business, getting people to contribute to pushing the needle forward of our country, and not just throwing money at it like a Band-Aid. You know what I'm saying? Like putting Band-Aid on cancer. Like minimum wage, man. Like this is another topic. You touched on minimum wage. People should be making $15, $20 an hour. No doubt about that. However, we've been raising the minimum wage incrementally for the last 100 years, and every time it happens, it's a reprieve for 10 years, maybe 5 years, and then all of a sudden $10 an hour is the same as $2 an hour.
Yeah.
So my opinion on that is we need more incentivization of these businesses to do exactly.
And we need
to do the right thing.
I'm all for, like, we're a country that was built on immigrants, and some people may not like what I'm about to say. Some of my closest friends are immigrants. But I think we need less incentives for fresh immigrants building businesses in our country. And tax breaks.
What do you mean by
Like,
less incentives? I'm just wondering.
Because they get-
one
they
of the
get
incentives
loans
are
and-
tax breaks and loans. That they come to our country. Like I told you, I
I see what you're
I
saying.
grew up working.
I just wanted to clarify
and when I say what I'm about to say, some of you may look at me like I'm crazy. You may not believe this is going on, but I worked in Arabic stores most of my life. And that's how I learned Arabic. Well, some of it. And it came to a realization real early. These people come over, and I don't say these people in a way I'm equality all the way. But they come over, and they purchase a store. Now you have 7 years of tax-free income.
Right.
They utilize that to then build that income, buy up homes in our neighborhoods, and then send for the next.
I think everyone should have 7 years of tax-free income when they open a business.
We need that tax money.
I think
we
that
need
should
it for our roads.
That's
we
what I'm
need it
saying.
for our
I think
schools.
people in house should be able to have access to opportunities like that.
Before we give it
that's
to somebody,
finance.
you know what
that's
I mean?
that's
Like,
fiscally conservative right there.
because meanwhile, while you're giving them tax breaks to build a business, we're sending our companies overseas the 1%.
Yeah. No, that's a big problem too.
I like looking at that program and saying that's something that we could definitely benefit and use in our community. But I think that one of the things that we have to just be careful of is looking at somebody else that's receiving and somebody else that's struggling and somebody else that's getting provided for and saying, okay, we need that, not them. You know what I mean? And because that creates
That's dangerous.
It is dangerous. But I get where you're coming from.
But it's more or less like this is to understand
like how
that
could you
we
give this
keep,
to somebody that belongs?
It's not even that.
came
It's
from
to
outside of
understand.
America
Like,
first
look about your Listen, Gotti, Waladim Anabahabik. I'm not talking crap, Gotti. Y'all don't kill me when y'all hear this. Like, I grew up around these people. I understood the language. I fell in love with Arabic people. But I came to the understanding that we spend our dollars in here. If you don't get close to them personally, they no less care about you like the boot on their shoe, bro.
Yeah.
That's most people in this capitalist society. They just here to
But
make their money.
my dollars is coming into your store and it's tax free, and you're not putting none of that back into my community.
And
I
snack time at
understand.
4
Like
o'clock is packed in the
I'm
store.
all for. I'm all for. I want everybody to be able. We need more immigrants. Everybody come and do better. But if I'm spending,
but you
my
just
money,
said the solution in your posing problem is incentivizing people to keep the money in here, like to recirculate the money in this country and not just keep it in your pocket, sending it overseas.
But it's not even like in this country. Like, I emphasize to my people who spend money in your corner store, if you don't see them putting money back in your community, put your dollar elsewhere.
Right.
That's what it comes down to. It's understanding that our communities stay down based on there's a liquor store in almost every one of our corners, bro.
So there was a local.
Then
study
you
that
got a
was
church
produced.
and an Arabic store, so our money is going out. It's not coming back.
Yeah,
in.
that's the problem.
The success of your community is based on how many times a dollar will circulate there.
Come
right?
on,
Yeah.
bro.
So like in the town of Amherst, I think on average a dollar circulates 7 times before it leaves the community. So that means that there's at least 7 people, 7 families, 7 businesses that are benefiting from every single dollar that's spent there. When you go to the east side of Buffalo, the stat is it's like 1.5 times it circulates before it leaves the east side of Buffalo.
Bro.
So you're thinking in terms of this, and this is what I'm thinking now, is how do you incentivize to keep the money circulating without putting a gun to people's head and say pay tax? That's the question.
I think
Well,
an incentive would be
there's
to
nothing
do
to
block
buy.
club parties or give the neighborhood stuff for school. Like, do something that shows that you at least will care, can care, and are sufficient enough in your personality to care about the community you set up your business.
Yeah.
Hold them accountable.
Yeah.
Hold them accountable.
We
That's-
need after school programs. We need iPads. We need computers. We need tutors.
Yeah.
We need life coaches. We need social counselors. You know how many single parents are out there right now as we speak that are at work and they got a 12-year-old at home because they have nothing else to do with this child?
At the end of the day, we gotta
put up, like, there should be something for everybody.
That's what I'm saying. We gotta get people involved in this, in pushing things forward and progressiveness. Like, people need to be a part of this country. Like, in every and it, like, we push the needle forward. Like, everyone needs to play a part in that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And by doing that is what integration would be like. That's how you really integrate, is when everybody's participating together, not just these people over here doing this and then those people over there, hoping to get some scraps at the bottom. You know what I'm saying?
We need more inclusion, no matter your ethnic background, what you believe in, no matter what your religion is, no matter where you come from in classism. We need inclusion. What are you going through? How can I make it better?
We need more people in positions of leadership that are willing to articulate the issues and able to articulate the issues that exist for our communities and our people, so that we can actually start realizing the actual things holding us back, right?
Yeah.
And that's what's important. But that's why the people like Martin Luther King and the people like Malcolm X and the people like Huey Newton, that's why they were silenced.
Yeah.
You know, because it's not because of the movement that they were pushing, but it was because of the information that they were bringing to the people.
Yeah.
And that information is so crucial for us.
There's a lot of evidence, overwhelming evidence, that Malcolm X was killed by the Nation of Islam. Louis Farrakhan said. Louis Farrakhan was asked, because there's rumors that he had something to do with it, that they didn't like how he was, whatever, and they said, and Louis Farrakhan said, "Yeah, I might have had something to do with it." I'm like, what?
Yeah,
that's wild. Martin Luther King, though,
I believe that was at the time he because I piggyback that every time you say it because it cringes me a little bit.
Yeah,
that was also the understanding he had to be silenced, and the government wanted to silence him. He was going to call out, or he was thought to have wanted to call out, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad for how he was carrying himself.
Yeah, that's what it was.
You know what I mean? And he was doing the interviews with the women.
But you know
that
what?
Were like, so
you know
it
what
wasn't
fascinates
just like
me, though?
the Nation of Islam backdoored him.
No.
But
the fans wanted to silence him, and they knew the best way to get next to him was through his own people.
What continues to fail us as a community, and that's even here in Western New York, is we allow people to get in our ears, right? And we allow people to change our perception, our views of other people. And I think that's one of the things that's really killer, because, like, you know, with Malcolm X, like there's conversations that were recorded, you know, from the FBI. Like they had his phone calls tapped. You know,
they were onto him. They
were feeding false information to his,
he was a genius
to his friends. They were feeding false information to his enemies. You know, they were feeding false information to the Nation of Islam about what he was talking about and the things that he was doing, and trying to manipulate people into causing harm against him. So if I'm asked if I believe the Nation of Islam killed Malcolm X, like, I know the government wanted. I know the government wanted to get rid of Malcolm X because
that's true.
Because the message that he was carrying was so important and so vital for our people, and it was going to bring real change. And he is the one civil rights leader. I will not stop saying his name. Every single T-shirt.
He's a genius.
When I wear a T-shirt, my T-shirt either has Malcolm X or has Huey Newton on it.
Yeah.
Because their messages are what's pure for our people.
Now, Malcolm X, I'll tell you this right now, I don't agree with everything he said at all. So Malcolm X and Martin Luther King kind of had two different approaches to the same problem.
Right.
Just like how we are talking right now, we don't agree on everything right now at this table, but we agree that there's a problem that needs to be fixed.
Right.
So we're all trying to find a solution to the same problem. We just had different solutions for it, right?
Right.
Well, I'm kind of under I'm kind of under the Martin Luther King umbrella, where I really think that thinking in everything in terms of race is not the best way to do this. Like, and I get it. We have to identify who's getting targeted. We got to identify who's getting left out. Those are things we should not ignore. At the same time, though, if we put every single category in terms of race, this is going to be a divide and conquer. We're just going to put each other against each other all the time.
This is the thing, though, and Malcolm X wasn't for white people, and then that's what you have to understand.
Right.
Like, Malcolm X was here to speak to us.
Yeah.
And that's why he didn't run for political positions.
Yeah, I agree with that.
That's why he wasn't out here trying to influence elections.
That's exactly.
And that's why he told you, don't even look at the presidential. Look at who's running for your county legislators, for your city county council, for the people that are impacting your areas. So, like, you know, he was speaking a lot about black, but that's because he was speaking to black people, and he needed to reach us, and we needed that message, because what he was bringing was an idea of black nationalism, which was 100% Malcolm X's goal from the time that he got out of jail, from the time he started working with the Nation of Islam, to the time that he broke off and factioned onto his own. Was an idea of dignity for the black man, the idea of self-sufficiency for the black men and women, right? And for providing for a family that is whole and not one that's broken by the system that exists. So, like, that's really what he was going towards. And and his message, and you're gonna look in my Facebook post, bro. You go back to 2019, 2020. I speak to our people because it's like we need that message. And if it's offensive to white people, sometimes it just has to be, because we got to reach our people. And we got to make sure that they understand that not only, you know, do they need to change, right? But here's how you change, and here's the reason why you're in that position that you're in the first place, and it's because there was a systemic attempt to get you there. So like that's really the message that Malcolm X brought to me.
Yeah.
So like I get that people have issues with his racial undertone to it, and that's probably why that's a big reason why he's not in the history books today, which is a
That's
huge
a bigger reason why
failure.
people like myself will gravitate more towards Martin Luther King, because he
Yeah.
said, judge people by the character, not the content, not the color of the skin, but the content of their character. Everyone should agree with that. If you don't agree with that, you're just a racist.
Facts.
But back to my point is, like, one of the things Malcolm X said that I take with me all the time, I love it, is, and this is political. He said, the conservative will tell you what he thinks. They'll tell you whatever they think. They'll tell you what's on their mind, and you might not like it. But the white liberal, is like a wolf in sheep's clothing. The white liberal is going to come over to you and say, "Yo, we want to help you. We want to help. Vote for us."
Did you say Biden? I'm sorry.
We're going to help you. Don't worry.
It's unfortunate that too many of us have been tricked into the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
Because it's like, the Democrats don't really represent. The Democrats don't represent. Right, the change that black people need and the change that America needs. I'm 100% honest, and the reason why I'm running as a Democrat is because that's where most of my people are currently registered, and I plan to take the party somewhere else. Like I'm running for the position of sheriff, which is an executive position. If I get that position, which I plan to, I don't have to answer to the helms of a legislative body.
Right.
I don't have to answer to the helms of Jeremy Zellner, who's or whatever his name is, the president of the local DNC chapter. You know what I mean? Like the sheriff, if you ask any politician right now what they're doing to take care of Sheriff Howard, they always shrug, oh, Sheriff Howard's got too much power. So obviously that's the position we need to take and really push to making change.
I think, I don't usually, and like I said, I'm talking about thinking in terms of race. I don't usually do this, but for this particular instance, I will say this. I think a solution to the police brutality problem is more black people need to become cops. Right. More black people need to become judges. More black people need to become sheriffs.
That's why I'm running for sheriff, bro.
I agree with that. And you know what?
Everybody, when I was out here, all these counter protesters
speak out too,
and that's why Carriol's law is so important, right? But it's not just Carriol's law. They need better leadership. Somebody that says, "Look, Blue Lives Matter is not a thing in this department."
Come on. Blue life's been mattering for too damn long. Look at LA.
There's no such thing as a blue life to me, because like you were saying, like we shouldn't be thinking in terms of color. Like blue is ultimately a color. At the end of the day, it's a color that none of us can even relate to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like Blue Lives Matter. What the hell is that?
The $100 bill. You didn't know?
But that's the reason. Like we can implement Carriol's law. Right. Like and Byron Brown and Byron Lockwood, they had to implement Carriol's law.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There was community demand. The Common Council voted on it. Right.
But
but without the leadership to properly implement it, now you don't have cops that still feel comfortable coming forward because they live in that insidious culture that exists. And just having black police officers doesn't change it, because the black police officers are out here doing the same thing to these young black men and these young black women that these white police officers are. It is the culture. It's insidious.
Yeah.
And
no, you
that's
got a
what
point,
needs to
man.
be changed. And when people tell me to become a police officer, that's why I'm running for sheriff, bro. Like at this protest so many times over and over. Well, if you hate police so bad, I don't hate police, right? I hate that institution of policing.
Yeah.
Right. But if you hate it so bad, why don't you become a police officer?
Right.
Yeah. You know,
and
I
police
watched.
officers can't change it, but the sheriff can.
You know what? Before we close out, I do gotta touch on the Neil, I don't know if you've seen it. He was one of the people who were essentially. Do you want to talk about that when you were protesting? Do you?
Oh,
do you want to talk about that?
I mean, I don't mind talking about it.
Yeah, sure.
Y'all got questions for that? Or?
Well, I mean,
you want me to give you
for people who weren't there, for people who don't know.
Oh, you want the rundown?
For me, I
what
feel
time
like
are we at? I
feel like that was we're a little over.
What time
but
is it?
that was a little bit of a catapult.
Okay. All right.
That was a little bit
minutes,
of like a catapult or a catalyst, I felt like, for your new drive.
Right. Well, then this is the thing is, like, you know, people look at me and they say, because they saw me on the news getting tackled and I had 5.6 million views on YouTube, like this was Myles' entrance into the activism scene in Buffalo, right? And it's not. Like, so in 2016 we built a playground on the east side of Buffalo because there wasn't one that was even remotely decent for our kids to be playing at, which is, you know, right on Genesee Street, and it's open to the community all day long. You know, I've been the president of my kids' school board at a local local Islamic school that was, like, you know, geared towards changing lives, and it's called Universal School. I don't promote their name too much for safety reasons because I'm running for sheriff and it is an Islamic institution.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I think it's important because like that's the most diverse school I've ever stepped foot in. And when I say diverse, there's like 8 different languages that are spoken there. There are refugee children from all over the city of Buffalo that go there for free. Right. There's black and brown children learning with Arab children, learning with white children, learning. You know what I mean?
That's
like
the future of a country,
charts, right?
You know what I mean?
We changed that school. We turned it around. We made sure that they had a balanced budget because I am conservative when it comes to money.
Yeah.
Right. And we ensured that before I left there, they were increasing enrollment by 10 to 15% year over year, and they had a 5% pay scale increase built in for their teachers because their teachers were only making $28,000 a year. Right. So these are things that I've been doing since before, like I was even tackled by the police. You know what I mean? And that's actively working in the community. I was the president of my kids' school board when I was 26. You know what I mean? So it's like I've been out here for a minute. But when it comes to that night, like, George Floyd had just been killed, on national TV for all intents and purposes. Like we all got to witness that. I still haven't watched the video. I won't do it. And like
I watched the whole thing.
I can't. Like I already, like the fact that he died, I already felt that in me. You know what I mean? Like if I watch that video, like it's like there's so much trauma, so much emotion, and so much other things that are already affecting our people, bro. I'm not gonna put myself through that time.
Yeah,
I can't.
It was bad.
I already feel it. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like I went down to protest down at Niagara Square, just like everybody else in Buffalo. And that night the police were immediately on shit, right? And that night I was actually clubbed in the head. And
wow.
I still have the scar on my head. And the police were moved back, pushed people back. I was standing there. Police tried to grab my backpack, and then I got smacked in the head with a billy club by another police officer. And my shit was leaking, like literally, like I had to get a medic wrap me up. I didn't get stitches because I was like, I don't, whatever, but like that was that. And then the next night I took off. I didn't go out to any protests the next night, and then the next night after that, my brother and sister was down. They were down on Bailey at the peaceful protest that was going on for the issues, not just for George Floyd, but for Quentin Suttles. Because Quentin Suttles is a young man. We're actually the same age. So me, you, Quentin, right? We're all the same age, right? He was driving on Mother's Day, I believe it was. He made the wrong turn on a one-way street, and if you've been in Buffalo, all the one-way streets are not labeled. He made the wrong turn on a one-way street. Bro, he made the wrong turn on a one-way street, got pulled over. Hey, smells like weed in here. Get out the car. Beat his ass. Yeah, right? They broke his scapula. Yeah. Right? They broke his collarbone and they broke his eye socket. They beat this young man's ass. It's crazy, right? Man. And I was out there protesting for him. And that night, like, I recently had my 50H because I'm suing the city and I'm suing the state for the issues for the violation of my civil rights that occurred that night, right? So I recently had my 50H, and they asked me, they're like, before the meeting, did you review any video footage of the incidents that happened? No, I can recall this perfectly, right? Right. And I did, right? And then I went back after that, and I'm like, okay, let me go back and review these videos. Like, I reviewed, bro, we were peacefully protesting that night. For one, like we had, like everybody was standing on the sidewalk. There was not people standing in the street like they claimed there was before they deployed the police into the street. So the police were the first ones that went into the street, not the people. Wow. Right? Yeah, and I got it on camera, right? So go ahead and F what you say, right? So the police are the first ones in the street. And then they deploy an attack on us where they're shooting us with pepper spray, mace, and bullets, right? Rubber and salt bullets, I think, is what they're shooting us with, right? And that's what caused everybody to run down the streets, right? And the police opened an attack on the people that night. And they didn't have it properly. There was no proper barricade or anything along those lines before they deployed that, because you'll see this later on when Deanna Davis drives through the police officers, right? But when people started running,
that was,
and the police officers established their presence in the middle of the street, right? Then we put our hands up in the air and we walked back peacefully to those.
And this is where the camera panned in, and they caught this moment.
Right. So we're over here with our hands in the air, right, and we're airing our grievances. It's not just me up here. There's about 4 or 5 other people talking to the police officers, right? We're about 30 feet away, so it's probably a lot of yelling towards them, but we all have our hands in the air, right? And airing our grievances, like, and they got police dogs out there, and one of the officers put their hand on the police dog's mouth and made the police dog shut up.
Stop it.
So they could hear us.
Stop it.
Right? This all happened, right? And then you could see them put their guns down and everything, and like you felt something was changing, and then all of a sudden, all the police officers picked their guns up, and then there were some that were over in front of AutoZone that did a new formation, and now we had 3 lines of police officers in a tank
He has to go.
facing us in the streets. Right. So like we're peacefully protesting now that this is the new maneuver that they decided to go against us.
Body.
So then I got my hands up. I see
Go body.
this man over at Channel 4. So I'm like, yo, do you see what they're doing? Do you see what they're doing? Like they're literally, we're out here peacefully protesting and they're trying to attack us, right? And he says, do you want an interview? And I'm like, sure, but if we're gonna interview, we're gonna go back to the front line where I was just standing at. So we were over there to give him the interview, and I still have my hands up, and I got my back to the police, and I'm interviewing with Channel 4 News, and we got a white reporter and a white camera. Or I'm sorry, it's just a white cameraman standing there and interviewing me, and I've got a few people on my sides, right? And not even after I said my name and where I'm from. You know what I mean? I know how an interview goes. I'm used to the news. Like, you got to say your name, spell it, where you're from. So I did all that because I know how it goes. And all of a sudden, you just hear cannons being fired and shots being fired. And the police rushed me, and like 6 of them.
On camera.
Yeah, on camera.
On
They
camera.
tackled me, threw me to the ground.
While you were giving an interview.
While I
right?
was giving an interview.
Yeah.
But like the point that my attorney pointed out that, you know, really is what sets this up as more so a violation of my civil rights is that there was a white cameraman that was standing in the same spot as me, and he wasn't arrested too.
Right.
So like that's where the discrimination comes in.
Right.
Because he was impeding traffic. He was doing everything exactly the same way I was, but he wasn't arrested and he wasn't charged.
And this essentially became
right. And he was a cameraman, and I was giving an interview, so we were doing the same job.
You ain't wrong.
We're doing the same job.
Became your catalyst for running, correct?
That's the catalyst, right? Because it's I guess that's where the fame comes from, because it got like 5.6 million views. You know what I mean? And then like people understand like more so like.
But you know what though?
The activism
That's a
community.
sign of the times. I know because there's still some major problems socially in this country that needs to be fixed. We've been talking about this whole time. You just gave the whole story, and then those are the things that influence us to do things we do. And since we are closing out right now, I don't want to make it all doom and gloom, because there are some changes being done that we need to celebrate.
Right. Absolutely.
So we're seeing more people get into positions of power that would never have gotten in positions of power
More
20
people
years ago.
stepping up
like you. Yeah. And having conversations like this needs to happen more. People need to do this more often. This is what's going to help everything, because at the end of the day, we might not agree on everything, but we can sit together, we can put our heads together, we come up with solutions and work together. And that's a beautiful thing, and that's what this country is, man. Like we talked about the First Amendment at the beginning. That's for everybody. The Constitution is for every citizen. You know what I'm saying? Not just a select few, for everybody. And that's what I want to see. I want to see everybody make it, and I want to see everybody come together. And this country really is a beautiful place. You know what I'm saying?
Right. So,
anything else you want to say before we close out?
Right.
Well, I just, I don't want to say vote for me, because that sounds so like conceited, but like, if you actually live in Erie County, the primary is coming up. You have to be registered as a Democrat to participate in the primary in New York State. The deadline to register as a Democrat is February 14th, so I'd say register with the Democratic Party if you plan to vote for me. Then the petition signing will be between March 2nd and I think March 24th this year. So like if you're interested in signing the petition, you want to get on the team, inbox me on social media. You can fill out my
we'll drop it all in
right. You can hit me up on my website, which is MylesCarter.com, MYLES Carter.com. You can get involved.
I'll throw the link in the
donate.
description.
Yeah, you can get involved or donate through that means. But I just want to remind everybody, like, as sheriff, like my first 3 priorities, my first day in office, and this is not the limit to what we're going to do first day in office, because we're going to continue building it. I'm looking at some other concerns that are really close to our community. But first day in office, Carriol halts marijuana. That's my easy way to remember it. Carriol's law is going to be implemented throughout the sheriff's department. We're going to halt solitary confinement as a practice within the Erie County jails, and marijuana will no longer be an arrestable, a ticketable, a search, or a seizure at all. And I want to make that clear. Like, you're not going to jail, you're not paying fines, you're not having your marijuana taken away through the Erie County Sheriff's Department.
So,
Amen.
If what they heard so far wasn't enough to vote for you, is there anything you want to say to sway voters right now? Just if they haven't really tuned in too much and they're just now getting into this, what can you say to a voter upon running for sheriff? Like, if I was to ask you, a middle-aged white man out of Tonawanda, what makes you
I do gotta run
a good sheriff?
So. Just
well, I think that the number one thing that we want to remind people of is that we're building a campaign, we're building a platform, we're going to build an administration around doing the right thing. Okay. So time and time again, we've experienced and we've been exposed to the news, and unfortunately our family and friends that come out of the Erie County holding center or Erie County jails and the atrocities that are going on in there, right? Currently we have an administration that's guilty of sexual misconduct, that's guilty of murder, right? That is guilty of atrocities against our community, and those are the types of things that the other people that are running for sheriff, they won't call it out.
Right.
They won't speak that out, and they won't speak for the victims and the issues that exist because they're too political for it. So I recognize the issues that exist in our community on a larger scale. I'm not afraid to talk about them. I'm not afraid to talk about the people that perpetuate those issues that exist in our community. And my entire reason and my entire platform for running is to solve those issues and to make our community better.
Wow,
so if people are down with that message and people want to support that message, like I understand there's 12 people running, and every time I talk to one of these older people in the community, oh, I'm voting for such and such because I know them. Okay, you know them, but what are they doing?
Right.
Yeah. What are they doing?
Yeah.
Because every other person running is a police officer.
Yep.
And you know what? The police officers, they haven't done anything in their jobs to solve the problems that exist in our community.
Right.
What are they going to do in a position of power to solve these issues?
So
and
I threw everything. I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry. I threw all your links into the description. So everybody go check out his links.
Myles Carter.
And our closing picture is going to take us away.
I'm going to close it. Everybody, again, Myles Carter running for Erie County Sheriff. As normally, I close out by saying, if nobody told you today, I love you. We are a people of love and need to give love. If you are watching this right now, if you've tuned in and you are listening to me, look to anybody next to you. If you love them, tell them you love them. If you have a significant other, embrace them, because the world will be healed by love.
For sure.
All right, guys, that was awesome.
Yeah.
Dude, definitely come back, bro.
Yo,
like
I
a few
appreciate
times
it.
before the
Hell
primary.
yeah, this is good. I love
I
this.
like having these conversations. I like having people that I'm not always just exactly